week in racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last stunts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? It's Magic.
Really? It's Magic, and I'm Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show. You ever do 243 episodes of a show and then suddenly forget how you're supposed to start it?
No, never done that. Maybe next time I'm on a show 244 times, I'll do it, though.
I was writing down the word this, and that's why I said it's Magic. And as soon as I said it, I was like, uh-oh. That's not what the words that I'm supposed to say. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's a fabulous Monday morning here. Nice little weekend of racing. It was a little chalky at Sam Houston, but at least it was good racing, so we'll take that. And I got the money back. Would have been nice to make a little bit more, but what can you do? And we had some good dairy prep, so it was a fun weekend overall.
Yeah, I had fun despite the being chalk at Sam Houston, and Santa Anita was pretty chalky over the weekend as well, which can be expected. If you take away all the turf racing on Saturday, there go a lot of the price options, these small dirt fields, and didn't quite correct itself on Sunday too much. But this coming weekend, especially Saturday, there's a mandatory payout of the Pick 6 pool, which is 20-cent denomination. They're projecting a $5 million pool for that mandatory payout on Saturday and a 10 race card. So plenty to look forward to Saturday, Santa Anita, but that's way down. We got to talk about what last weekend first, because I don't know how many Derby winners we saw this weekend, but I know we saw a really exciting finish at Santa Anita. So I'm excited to talk about that. Before we do it, Mike, what's the best thing you saw this week?
Okay, this is huge for me. I'm not going to lie. So I don't know if anyone ever listens to the Bill Simmons podcast. They have something called Parents Corner, and I'm gonna do a little parent corner here. If you had set the odds, so my daughter swore for the first time this weekend. This is what this is all going towards. If you had set the odds of who she was going to be repeating when she swore, I would have been like 2-5, because I swear at the end of horse races quite a bit, and I've done a very good job not doing that. My dad would have been like 4-5, and my wife would have been like 20-1. Definitely said shit because my wife said shit, and I'm so proud of myself for not being the first one. So that's the best thing I saw, that she swore because of my wife and not me. I'm taking credit. I'm marking that one down, and I am very happy about it.
There are so many things that you as the father and the husband are going to get blamed for, whether right or wrong. This is one of those things where you can firmly put your foot in the ground and say, this is not my fault. Everything else, that's me. But I did not tell her how to swear.
Nope, wasn't me. I'm not the one.
Oh, man, I had a few things to choose from. By the way, when it comes to our kid, we're almost like... you could almost call us a coupled entry because we're both like 9 to 5, 8 to 5 on the morning line. I'm a lot saltier in my regular language. It's part of my normal speaking. Yeah. My wife is more voracious with it. So when something happens bad, that usually she's the one that'll curse loudly. And so that's why I think she's got a slight edge on me. I'm pointing because she's just off screen right here working. So that's why if you see me, if you're watching live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, she's right there. So that's why if you keep seeing me do this, that's why.
Yeah, everything gets repeated. So it doesn't matter how crazy or how loud you say it. Even if you whisper it, everything gets repeated. So it's really the first one to slip up around the kid when they're in that parrot mode. And my wife did that. I'm undefeated in the swearing game, still at 0.
Gotta love it. Sorry, the best thing I saw was a couple options because first of all, Spencer, who runs the Redboard Rewind podcast, he had me on this morning, so we talked Santa Anita a little bit more in depth on the Saturday card. So you can listen to that, check it out. Mike's been on a couple times, so I was very honored to be asked to be brought on, which is very exciting. So check that out. That should probably be out in the next day or two. If you're following me on Twitter, I'll blast the shit out of that link when it comes out. I'm wearing my Jared Goff Rams jersey in front of the Lions blanket because the trade that happened. I don't know. Let's talk about it for a second. You know a lot about more football than I do. A lot more about football. See, I still can't talk. Basically, Stafford goes to the Rams. The Rams give a bunch of draft picks and Jared Goff while still paying the rest of Goff's contract to Detroit. I think it's a win for both, but I'd love to hear from you what you thought of that trade.
Yeah, I mean it's a little bit of a mess. I mean, Detroit gets a couple picks, but those picks probably aren't going to be great, especially if Stafford's able to play well for the Rams. I mean, the Rams are now the third best option next year in the Super Bowl odds, which I'm not surprised. I mean, really the one thing missing this year was a quarterback, and Stafford, people love him or hate him, statistically he's a top 10 quarterback, and so if he's able to do that in the Goff offense, he's always been very good in play action. Or I'm sorry, the McVay offense, and he's always been very good with play action, which is one of McVay's staples. The Rams could be really dangerous. And honestly, like, can they ride that defense to the Super Bowl? You really just need to not make mistakes if you're Matthew Stafford in Los Angeles. So I think it's a great pickup for Los Angeles. I think the draft capital they give up is not that bad. They get rid of Jared Goff and his contract. You're going to be able to get rid of Stafford before you will Goff. I mean, that's the crazy part. I mean, Stafford's got a couple years left. Goff, you were stuck with. It's just you realize Jared Goff was the highest paid player in the NFL 2 seasons ago? That's how bad that contract was. And now he's off the team. So I would much rather have the Rams side of this trade.
I think for the Rams, this to me felt like a move where they said we were one piece, one good to above average quarterback away from making it to the Super Bowl. They look at what Tampa Bay did with acquiring Tom Brady and just really bulking up. So if they think that their window is right now, and that window shuts awfully fast in the NFL, if they can do that, I think they've got a great chance to get to the get back to the Super Bowl. Goff led them there just 3 years ago, and now he's minus a thumb and living in Detroit, and he has to play outside in Green Bay and Chicago every year. Well, how much longer does he have left on his contract? Because I'm pretty sure he's going to want out after about 6 months.
Pretty sure it's like 5 years, 4 years. It's something crazy. It is not soon. That's for sure. It is not anytime soon. And like, man, you realize that the Rams started Warford in a playoff game over Goff, and it was a decision, not a injury thing. It was a decision. When you hear about all the interviews McVay gave during that week and afterward, they didn't want to start Goff. That should have been the writing on the wall that Goff wasn't going to be there for another season.
Anyways, the best thing that I did see, he didn't get the win, but our boy Tiz the Magician on Saturday in the San Pasquale Stakes at Santa Anita, man, I was a proud owner of him. Throws down with Zestful, who's a very fast, annoying pest of a horse when you also have a pace horse. Threw it down with him, kicked away from him, held off idle, couldn't stop the rolling express train, but I'll be honest, I don't think anybody was stopping express train in the San Pasquale, but for him to go up to the grade 2 level for the first time, try a mile and an eighth for the first time. I loved everything that I saw from Tiz the Magician. At this point in his career, he's just such a fun horse, and to see him try every time, even if he didn't get the win, God, I was just so happy on Saturday. Man,
dude's got heart. Like, that's like, he just digs in and tries hard every single time. There's really nothing more you could ask for from a racehorse. I mean, just every single time you get 100% effort, and I love the fact that he gets to the lead. It's nice to have him out there and just hope that he can hang on. And when someone comes to him, he puts up a good fight. Ran a career best buyer 95 this time as well, so it's nice to see that step forward. Sounds like he came out of the race well. It'll be fun to see where he goes next.
Yeah, I texted my racehorse people afterwards and I said, hey, maybe the big cap, like a mile and a quarter, that's probably a little bit too much with him with the way things went. And they said, I don't know, if the field comes back looking like this one, why not? And I was like, you know what? Why not? He's been second in a grade 3. He's been second in a grade 2. I mean, even if he doesn't win a grade 1, second place plays pretty damn well for the big cap. And we as owners profited from his second place in the San Pasquale. So that was a nice little bonus as well.
Yeah, ship me that $4.04 all day. Let's go. There's nothing big. I'm not scared of anyone in California. I think that's really the biggest thing here is that, who are they going to turn up for those fields? The best horses are going over to Saudi Arabia and going to go over and run in Dubai. So, let's run any type of grade 1 we can get in right now in California. I think is a worthwhile spot for Tiz.
Well, we do have some racing to talk about at California as well as Florida and, of course, our good friends at Sam Houston. Let's get into it, Mike. Riders up. Let me get my screen pulled up here. Which one is it? Gulfstream Park. All right, we're going to go Holy Bowl first if you're watching or following from home. Dennis is saying it has to be a small field to help. It definitely, well, I don't know, because if Zestful's not in that race, I don't know what happens. If Zestful doesn't show up for the big cap, which I don't think he would based off of what happened there, if he's the only pace horse that's nominated for the big cap and looks like he's going to go, I don't see why you don't send him. Because, like Mike was saying, you put Tiz the Magician on the lead early. He's really damn hard to pass. Drayden said after the race that he didn't see Express Train coming until it was too late, or else he wouldn't have let him pass. And I was like, okay, I don't know about that. Express, yeah, he literally was coming like an Express Train. I appreciate the sentiment, but yeah, I don't think that was in the cards for him. But second, plays really nice. So, all right, let's go with Holy Bull 3-2. All right, Mike, first race we're going to take a look at from this past weekend. Going to Gulfstream Park on Saturday, January 30th, the Grade 3 $200,000 Holy Bull Stakes. Field of 9 males, all 3 years old, going a mile and a 16th on the main track at Gulfstream. When they go in a mile and a 16th, it's just like when they go a mile at Oaklawn Park. They finish at the 16th pole. Favoritism was on our boy, Prime Factor. We traded up to draft him 3rd overall in the Fantasy League, even money favorite. Shit. Do we still have the receipt for that trade? Because I don't know if we still want him after this one. Not a great showing from Prime Factor. Greatest Honor gets the really nice, impressive win. Backs up all the hype we'd been hearing leading into it all week for the Sugar Begay trainee. Your thoughts?
Honestly, yeah, it wasn't a great race for Prime Factor, but I'm not that worried about it. I mean, it's as weird as that sounds. This is the first time trying 2 turns, and it was the first time coming out of a sprint, and he was in a good position and he just was tired. I mean, well, you could see it going around the turn when he did not fly right by the 2 horses that right to his outside. You kind of knew it was over at that point. And then Greatest Honor just comes wheeling like a freight train 3 wide or 4 wide, and that was that. So, I mean, the takeaways from this race is, look, there's only 2 horses I'd want out of this race. It's Prime Factor and it's Greatest Honor. I like this is such a regression from Prime Factor that there's another reason. The horse isn't this bad. And so because of that, I'm going to go ahead and say it's experience and the lack of going 2 turns. And look, if we go back and we run the same race back and I can get 5-1 on Prime Factor and Greatest Honor is 3-5, guess who I'm betting? I mean, I'm taking Prime Factor every time in that exact same situation. So with those odds flipped. So it'll be interesting to see where this horse shows up next. I guarantee he stays on the trail. I'd be shocked if they took him away just because of this race. And Greatest Honor, I think, really stamps his place here as a possible contender because this race was impressive, how he drew off, how he was 4 wide around that second turn. He just looked good doing it. So it'll be interesting to see where, I mean, I would assume Greatest Honor is going to come back here in the Fountain of Youth and then go to the Florida Derby. And I assume will be the favorite through the Florida cycle now, going toward the Derby.
Yeah, let's stick on Greatest Honor because he did win and he won very impressively. A lot of comparisons being drawn to Greatest Honor and Orb, who's another Shug McGahee trainee, won the 2013 Kentucky Derby. And like Orb, it took him a while to break his maiden. And then he came back early and looked better early in his 3-year-old season, looked a lot better, and then just kept improving. And Shug just knew how to time it so that in the Kentucky Derby, Orb was the best that he could possibly be. And he's Shug McGahee. We've seen time and time again that he knows how to handle horses. He's a true horseman in that he aims for a race and builds up towards it accordingly. So I think that normally if I saw a horse needed, that many starts to break his maiden and then goes to the Fountain of Youth, I wouldn't have faith that he would be able to time it at the Kentucky Derby, but it's Shuggy Bear. I got no reason not to trust that he can get this horse ready.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the way this horse's career started off, he went 7 furlongs at Saratoga, 7 furlongs at Belmont. Both of those were clearly just a little bit too short for this horse. It likes every added length of ground. And so this horse has really thrived going 2 turns, went a mile and an eighth at Aqueduct, ran a good race, progressed forward, broke its maiden, go to mile and 16th at Gulfstream, and then took a nice step forward here again, too. I mean, we're looking at 72, 77, 79, 83. Now I believe it was an 89 buyer that came back for this one. So nice progression as we go through here. So the horse is just continually taking steps forward. And if that, you probably need somewhere in the hundreds to be able to win the Derby. And so we've got 2 races to get to that point. But because of the way that this horse has progressed, I don't see why that's not possible. So I think this one, we need 2 more steps forward in the Fountain of Youth and the Florida Derby to be competitive. But logically speaking, I think you could project this horse taking those steps.
Let's talk about the second place horse for a little bit here. Tarantino, who was right there with Prime Factor, kind of pressing the pace, a little chasing, and ends up, because of the fitness level, I think ends up holding on to get second while Prime Factor faded. Tarantino was a turf horse. He did 3 starts, all turf miles. This is a sign that maybe the horse was probably better than expected because he was a Bob Baffert trainee who won on turf in his first start, not something you usually see from that barn. Then almost wins the Zuma Beach Stakes again on the turf. They sent him to Rudy Brissett because it's like, okay, this horse is clearly a turfer and a good turfer, so let's give him to somebody who can actually turn him into an even better turfer. Shows up here on the dirt, and it felt like they were giving it a swing. You can see by the odds that a lot of people didn't give him a chance. I think that fitness level from those 3 mile races was key to him being able to hold on in the stretch. He's by Pioneer now out of a Seeking the Gold mare, so if he wanted to try and handle the dirt or keep going after it, they could. I'm not sure if they do just because of how strong he's looked on the turf. What would you do here with Tarantino if you were the Connections?
I mean, I would send him back to the turf after this. He ran a good race, but I think that you make an excellent point where he beat Prime Factor because he was just more in shape for this race. He'd run 3 times previously in his career and gone 2 turns multiple times in his career, where this is the first time Prime Factor did that. And I mean, my question is, do you really think he's taking a step forward off this? I mean, that to me is the biggest problem here. This was second off the layoff, so you'd assume that you'd see some progression here. This horse sold for $610,000, and Baffer put it on the turf. I mean, that really, to me, is all you need to say if you want to know what surface this horse is probably going to be better at. Bob Baffer getting a $610,000 2-year-old, he's trying to win a Derby with that horse, period. And if he doesn't even put it on the dirt, I don't want any part of that horse long term. And I also have some concerns about the horse going 1.25 miles, 1.25 miles, distance like that. So we'll see what happens here as the distances stretch out, because those first 3 races were all at 1 mile. He was more forwardly placed. He wasn't exactly flying home here. So to me, I feel like the 5 Tarantino is one of those horses that I would rather see on the turf. And I mean, if we see him in the Fountain of Youth, I think it's a hard bet against.
The horse I'm looking forward to playing the most out of this field, assuming Dale Romans wises up and cuts this horse back to 1 turn again, is the 8 Sitting on Go. He started off his career winning 2 starts, both 1-turn events, by about 7 lengths combined, including the Iroquois Stakes. Tried routing in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, was off slow, just a terrible race altogether. Kentucky Jockey Club, that was the race where I went, okay, this horse needs to be a 1-turn, because he just didn't have any kick. He just runs in place. Cut him back to 1 mile, 7 furlongs. The Woody Stevens should be in play for him. But I think at this point, we've now seen 3 straight races where he's tried routing against really good horses at this point in their careers, and he's no match for them. I don't see this horse taking a step forward routing-wise. I think as soon as this horse cuts back, because of his string of recent poor form, you're going to get a good price on him. And so I would love to see what he's able to do, if he cuts back to 7 furlongs or 1 mile. Did you have any thoughts on Sitting on Go?
I will never be excited about betting a Dale Romans horse. So I can't agree with you on that point, because he's one of those trainers. I struggle figuring out when the A game is coming from his horses. This horse should be sprinting. The 1-turn races are clearly better than the 2-turn races. Let's give up this 2-turn thing and let's see what happens. And those are logical targets that you mentioned. I'm concerned this horse is a step below some of the better sprinters, though. So I think this kind of is one of those middling horses where it's not good enough to be in grade 1 2-turn races, and it's not good enough to be in grade 1 1-turn races. Yet Dale Romans is going to continue to put them in that position. So I will see when we get to see like a grade 3 1-turn race. Sign me up. Then I'm interested, but I'm not sure when that'll be.
Dennis Trussey's killing me here. So I think when Dale Romans has a good 2-year-old, they win the Iroquois, and then Dale gets on them in the mornings. And if you've ever seen Dale Romans, the horse should probably be riding him, not the other way around. He's a big boy. Who also, apparently, when he gets into fights with people, has real problems with his pants staying aboard. You can Google that on your own time if you want to find out. We're going to move on to Santa Anita now. We'll talk about the Robert B. Lewis Stakes. You end up having a field of, what do we have here? Well, it ended up being 6. There were 8 entered. Ron Bauer dropped out. He's going to the El Camino Real Derby. What is it they called it? I think it's the El Camino Real. He's going to Golden Gate to try the synthetic there. He also had Wasperant scratch out of here, who he was training absolutely terribly coming in, so don't blame them for scratching him. Who you got there says, don't Google that Dale Romans thing. It's an image you can never forget. Yeah, you're probably right. And the Robert B. Lewis, Mount the 16th, going to the finish line at Santa Anita. Same amount of Kentucky Derby points are on the line here. Medina Spirit ends up being the even money favorite. Hot Rod Charlie coming off of that really narrow late running second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He's the 5-2. Spielberg was in here, probably going to disappoint once again. Such tough luck for that $1 million horse. Medina Spirit gets the job done by a neck and a nose over Roman Centurion and Hot Rod Charlie. This is the race that I mentioned earlier was so exciting to watch as a finish, because at any given point, it was Roman Centurion in front, Hot Rod Charlie in front, Medina Spirit in front. Came right down to the wire. It was a fun race. What'd you think about it?
First off, I'm watching Turf Paradise because I'm in a couple tournaments that are going okay, but not great. So that's what I was watching on TV. The 8th just went off. As far as this race, man, I don't want anything out of this. I watched the replay again today just to make sure that I wasn't being a little salty about it. So they run six furlongs in 112, and then they go a mile in 139. I mean, that's a brutal 27 seconds that they ran the 2 furlongs in. That's not good. That's like 3 seconds slower than they should be going. And I want to give Medina's Spirit credit for hanging in there, but hanging really is the key word there, because the 2 horses on the outside, they're in my closet there, and they're hanging everywhere because it was so bad. They should have gone right on by, and they just didn't want to, and that was a huge concern for me here. I'm looking forward to playing against any of these horses when they leave California.
Which probably I don't think is going to happen, at least not till the first Saturday of May. Medina Spirit is the one, and I said this on the Redboard Rewind podcast, which is a reminder, go check that out. It should be available by Tuesday.
Love the shameless plug.
Listen, Spencer's been great to both of us. I gotta plug the guy. Medina Spirit, I think if I had to take a horse out of here, it would be Medina Spirit. First of all, we got 2.5 inches of rain on Friday. That track it's already a deep and tiring track at Santa Anita. That was an extremely deep and tiring track, which you saw happen when White to Slate and Parnelli were trying to chase Medina Spirit. What happened to them? Way in the back. You had Roman Centurion rallying from last. Hot Rod Charlie was trying to split between horses. Cedillo, if you watch the head-on, you can see Cedillo counting how many times he's striking, because he doesn't want to get in trouble, because you're only allowed to strike 6 times in California total and never more than twice in a row. It felt like he was trying to figure out when exactly to time things, and that if he was at a track in Kentucky, Florida, New York, where he doesn't have a restriction, I feel like he could have gotten after Medina Spirit a lot more, and he probably wouldn't have lost like he did. He also, by the way, not everybody cares that much about the gallop out. Medina Spirit got straight back into the bit and beat them on the gallop out. So he looked good, but he also had to be the pace from the rail. I don't know if he goes to a Grade 1 race that I want anything to do with him. But if he goes to somewhere like the Sunland Derby, for example, he is perfectly set up to win a race like that. So that's where I would take him, but what Dennis has been harping on for a while, this race probably didn't have the Kentucky Derby contenders that we thought it would. So looking at this race versus the Holy Bull and what we saw with Greatest Honor, you got to, at least for a Derby specifically, you've got to like Greatest Honor more, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot more. I would rather have Prime Factor than anyone out of this race. I mean, I'd like that. You don't want stumble bunnies right now. That's the thing. Is
correct.
And I get that Prime Factor was a stumble bunny too, and I agree with the fact that he was. But that was the first time trying 2 turns. It was there's a much different setup here where you were kind of expecting that, Medina Spirit has gone 5.5 furlongs and went a mile and was progressing, and then this was just, to me, not. And then you have horses like Hot Rod Charlie. This is his 6th race, and Roman Centurion. This is his 3rd race, and he already went a mile and 16th. And so if you're gonna be a big time horse, this was the time that you kind of at least show out somewhat. And I cannot remember a 27-second quarter. I literally cannot. I thought the time was wrong when I watched that back. I'm like, this can't be right. They couldn't have gone 27 seconds for the 3rd quarter and 1:39 for the mile. And I get, yes, it's tiring, and I'm not a huge time guy, but that's really slow. And then they didn't exactly they followed it up with a 7-second 16th of a mile, which means they were on pace for 28 seconds. So they were slowing down even more. And so it's look, I get it if you're trying to take a breather in that 2nd and 3rd quarter. That's why you run the 46th and the 112. Run a 125, 136. Don't go all the way to that 17 or 27 seconds. So to me, that was where I'm not sure. I agree that Medina Spirit ran the best race. If I took anyone out of this, that would be the horse I would take. But to me, this is just some people are saying the horse dug in. They all pretty much stopped. I mean, that's what I saw.
He was the best of the horses that threw in the brakes. Yeah, I said this on Redboard Rewind podcast, which you can go listen to now. Roman Centurion, be careful wanting to play this horse, because how Dennis say it. Be careful with this horse, because we were talking about with those fractions. Everybody else stopped, and that's why he looked so good, is because everyone else was throwing in the anchor there. A horse like this that comes rallying from well off the pace is going to be exciting if you think there's a pace setup that favors him, but I don't know how much I want him, not at a mile and a 16th. If we go a mile and an 8th, which is the Santa Anita Derby, then okay, but we can talk about it. I want to see how he develops between now and then, but I feel like this almost might be a case, Mike, of wedding and funeral, where you got the wedding on him at 11-1 here. You might get 4-1 on him if he goes to the San Felipe, which would be next for him. And at that point, unless there's 8 speed balls and just him in there, I don't think I want to touch him.
Yeah, I mean, I would demand a price of anyone out of this race. And I don't think I'm going to get it on Roman Centurion. I don't think I'm going to get it on Hot Rod Charlie. I don't think I'm going to get it on Medina Spirit. And I have absolutely zero interest in playing the other 3. So that makes it really hard for me to want anyone out of this race. And can we officially just close the book on Spielberg? Like, I mean, can we not let this horse go off? If this horse is in the stakes again and it goes off sub 10-1, I just don't get it. Like, I just don't get it. I was shocked that this horse went off at 5.5-1.
Don't be too surprised if you see Spielberg show up suddenly at Turfway Park running for Rudy Brissett. He's got all the makings of a high-priced Baffert horse who can't handle the rigors of that system that he has for training. And that, like we've seen with Editor-in-Chief, we saw with Mohawk. Baffert says he doesn't want him anymore. They show up at Turfway Park. So keep an eye out for that if you really want to keep playing Spielberg. Mike, I think the most important thing that happened among any 3-year-old this weekend, it was the fact that Chess's Dream scratched out of the Texas Turf Mile Stakes at Sam Houston on Sunday, which I had predicted. Goes to Gulfstream Park, wins the Kitten's Joy with an upset at 8-1. So we got as many Kentucky Derby Fantasy League points from Chess's Dream winning that race as we did Prime Factor getting 3rd in the Holy Bull. So at least Chess's Dream is the first horse to not completely let us down this year. But let's move to Sunday at Sam Houston for the Texas Turf Mile Stakes, which kicked off the late pick 4 sequence that we covered on this show last Thursday. Field got a little mixed up here. We lost one of the Pletchers that we both really liked in the spot, but you end up getting Palazzi with the win at 5-2 by a nose over my top pick, Excess Magic. Man, I was pulling for him hard there. Didn't get the job done. Fighting Forces 4th. Dynamite ran a pretty nice 3rd. Let's break this down. What'd you think?
So first off, like 2 crazy photos back to back. You had a dead heat in the race previous to this, where Nitrous just got an atrocious ride. We don't need to get into that, but I don't know what that horse was doing so far back. And then I have no clue how this horse won. Like, I'm still baffled when watching this race how this horse got the nose down. I thought for sure the 3 Excess Magic won this race. I didn't have Excess Magic. I did have the 1 Palazzi. Got added on the ticket. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, Samabom18. That's where you could have found that out. On Saturday, I scratched out the 11 horse win from within, and as you mentioned on the show on Thursday, the 6 horse did end up not showing up from California, the Urton horse as well. So with those 2 out, I ended up getting the 1 in there, and I thought I was out. I actually turned off the screen. We were about to go out to dinner, and then I got a text saying that the 1 actually got up. I'm like, what the hell? Like, you got to be kidding me. So it's a fun race. I mean, that kind of is. It's some interesting trips here. I wish Red and Wild took to the turf a little bit more. 41-1 is a must use for me. Would have been nice to get that puppy. Horse didn't want the turf at all. That's fine. That's why he takes swings with some of those shots.
Exactly.
Fighting Force struggled a little bit up top after kind of fighting for the lead. I thought that was one of the things just on that turf course. It was pretty hard to hold the lead. I mean, we saw that in the turf sprint a couple races earlier. We saw that later in the card as well. And Palazzi made a nice move around the turn and was able to get up. I thought this was a heck of a race. I really did. I enjoyed the race. Like, all the stakes races I thought were really good races. I wish we got prices home, but at least it was good racing.
Yeah, the pick 4 ultimately pays $58, which if you played Mike's ticket, you made an $8 profit, which doesn't sound like much, but like I like to say, it's better than losing, which is what this guy did. We'll get to the why in a second. Palazzi, I am so happy that I watched that replay of when he broke his maiden at Fairgrounds, because watching that replay is what convinced me to put him on my ticket. I was initially between him and the Steve Asmussen horse. Was it Invincibility? I think it was Invincibility who got last. So I was between those 2, and the replay is what put me on Palazzi. So I'm glad that I had him. I ended up adding Invincibility because the second Pletcher was out. But, man, he looked good. You put him on turf. You gave him those blinkers. Man, just he makes it exciting. Again, I was pulling for Excess Magic because that was my top pick, but man, you gotta love the fact that this threw down. I also love, Mike, that at Sam Houston, we talked about this on Thursday, you had Pletcher showing up with a bunch, you had Maker showing up with a bunch, Asmussen's going to be there, Urton was looking at coming in, Cassie sends in Palazzi. I mean, you had a lot of big name people coming for their biggest day of the year at Sam Houston, so it was nice to see it all played out very well in terms of handle that they had. Not loving the chalk that we got, but that happens in racing sometimes. So a very exciting way to kick off the pick 4.
Yep, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more. I know, I think this is Aaron, because Jared doesn't watch or listen, who's here for the Spooky Channel Talk. I think that's going to be a big part about why some of these trainers did show up. So we'll talk about that a little bit in one race here. But yeah, I thought it was great to see all these different horses come in, big fields, and This one, I'll let you kick it off here, but then we can talk a little bit about Latrusca.
Oh boy, yeah, Latrusca, the Houston Ladies Classic Stakes. This was a big single for Mike, that should have been the first key right there. When Mike Samich singles a horse that is even money on the morning line, is going to be half that come post time. If he's telling you that's his single on a 50-cent ticket, it's a sign that horse is going to run away, and she does. Got on the front end, and it was over from there. Once I saw Motion to Motion, the only other pace horse I thought on paper, not go with her, I was like, Latrusca's gone. I went too deep here. I used Jeweled Princess because I thought, well, if Latrusca loses, it's because she gets caught in a pace duel and can't hold on. And I thought Jeweled Princess would get there. Neither of those things happened, but I had Latrusca on the ticket, so we both made it through here with the nice pick here. What do you think about Latrusca?
She did what she was supposed to do. I mean, that's really the bottom line. And there was a lot of talk on Twitter yesterday about ticket construction, and some people were harping on pick 5s, and some people talked about my pick 4. And one of the things that I think is important here is if we decide we're going to play this sequence, and Latrusca, I thought, look, I would love to beat Latrusca, but I felt like it was wasting bullets using other horses in this spot. That's why I singled here. And the key is if you're singling a horse like this, that you find horses that separate you in the other legs. Having that 41-1 shot in the previous leg is a separator. Having a 20-1 shot in the last leg is a separator. You have to find other horses. You can't just simply go with the top picks in each of those races, because if you do that, you're limiting your upside on a ticket, right? Where there was a theoretical world where with Latrusca singled, my pick 4 ticket could have returned $750 to $1,000, right? Whereas if you focus on just certain horses, you don't have that same upside. Obviously, comes back $58, which is what it is, but there was at least the upside potential for it. And that's one of the keys when you're structuring tickets with a single like this. You have to make sure you separate yourself in other legs, or have horses that can separate you other legs, or else it's not even worth playing the sequence. Anyway, that aside, Latrusca here just runs really well. And we talked about this on the show on Thursday. She was clearly the class on paper. And when you have the best horse with a pace advantage, it's really tough to beat him. And I'm digging for my second horse, and I went to Motion to Motion, and I looked at Jeweled Princess, and it's like, if I'm digging for those horses, that's when you should just stop digging and just swallow the even money.
Which is what paid off here. Latrusca with the job done. Lady Apple, the winner last year, finishes third. That is her final career start. Phoenix Thoroughbreds already announced this morning. They pulled the plug. She is off to Quality Road to become a mama. So happy trails to Lady Apple. Not much more to talk about from this race. Lady Apple, very, like Mike said, very much the class of the field. We'll move on to the John B. Connolly Turf Cup Stakes, race 9. This is the third leg of the pick 4 sequence. And Mike, this is what Aaron is here for, the talk about Spooky Channel. That's not the correct race. Hold on, I did. Okay, there we go. Spooky Channel gets the job done as the 3-2 favorite by a neck under Julian Leperoux. And this is where you were right. I was wrong. I thought that Spooky Channel had a really good chance to lose, not because he wasn't classy enough, not because of the jockey. I thought that being post 10 and the pace set up on paper is what was going to hurt him here. And honestly, what happened? That happened to a Journey to Freedom. The horse that you and I both really love, Spooky Channel, much closer to the pace, gets the job done. What did you think about this race? And talk about the insight on Spooky Channel, why he's here instead of Gulfstream.
Yeah, and this was something where I Gulfstream kind of pulled the plug on Lasix in some spots for horses. And so there are certain stakes races where you're not able to run with Lasix at strong tracks. Spooky Channel, according to Lynch, and I found this out, I was watching TVG, I think it was earlier on Saturday, and they specifically mentioned, Lynch said, we're not running without Lasix with this horse because this horse absolutely needs Lasix. You're going to see a dud effort if this horse didn't have it, and that's why we're moving. One of my concerns about Spooky Channel and why I took a swing against here and went 5 deep was I didn't love the fact that this is where this horse showed up. Now, it made a lot more sense once I heard that. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, right. Now this is why Spooky Channel is here. And I think that's why we saw some other horses here earlier as well with the 3-year-olds. I mean, you have horses, you have tracks now where you can't use Lasix, where race day medication isn't allowed. You're going to see trainers gravitate toward large purse stakes races at tracks that allow Lasix for horses that they feel they need them. And so you're going to see the Pletchers, just the Aschensons who'll always be here. But the Pletchers and other big-time trainers that don't usually ship to Sam Houston will ship to places like Sam Houston on nights like these because the purses are big and you can use race day medication. And that was, I think, one of the big differences here for Spooky Channel. Runs a huge race. It was interesting. We joked about the morning line. There was no way Journey to Freedom was going off at 10-1. This horse ends up going off at 4-1. I was surprised that Spooky Channel went off at 3-2. I was expecting a little bit higher of a price there because I thought this was a pretty competitive race. But it was a fun one. Like, again, it's a really good race. Journey to Freedom was trying to get there at the end, just couldn't make it happen. And Conviction Trade went out a little bit too early there. It was stretching out by 5 lengths isn't necessarily what you want to do when running an opening half mile at this type of distance. So it was an interesting race to kind of just see how it played out. But Spooky Channel ran big and was able to get it done. Did we lose you, Magic? We did. So this was, like I said, this was an interesting race with Spooky Channel getting the job done. I thought Tenfold ran actually really well here. The horse that I used Marzo on my ticket as well. And if you go back and you watch the replay here of Marzo, that was one of the horses that got the worst trip. I'm going to stable up Marzo and keep an eye on this horse moving forward. I think if we get back to 1.5 miles, somewhere in those ranges, the horse can run really well and is going to be able to do something. Likes Keeneland, so I wouldn't be shocked if we see that horse end up at Keeneland again. But Marzo got an awful trip trying to get through the pack there. And so I'm interested to see where Marzo goes back. Horses like Henley's Joy, not really that interested in. I thought Tenfold actually ran pretty well in this spot as well. So it'll be interesting to see where a lot of these different horses go. And if I'm sure we'll see quite a few of them at Keeneland. Magic, do we get you back? All right, well, I'm just going to go ahead and move on to the last race of the night then. To close it out, we had the 10th at Sam Houston. This was another turf stakes race for, was it $75,000? And this one was another one where you had 3 clear betting choices. So you had the one horse. Hey, what's up, buddy? Welcome back.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. I was just talking about the last race. So you had the one horse here, Catch a Bid. We talked about quite a bit on Thursday. That was one of those interesting horses coming in that we didn't really understand why this horse was in this spot. 7-5 morning line, and one that we both thought was pretty beatable. It turned out we were right on that front. Unfortunately, again, the chalk got home, or a shorter price got home. But it was one of those situations where trying to fade that one Catch a Bid was a good move. Never really like it when a horse leaves the Chad Brown barn and goes somewhere else, and it's a turf filly. We talked about that. That's one of those things where it just, that is what he does well. And when he gives up on a horse that was touted like that, it's something that you got to keep an eye out. So, not shocked that Catch a Bid didn't run a huge race. What did you think here, Magic?
I loved the way that Morning Molly finished. I thought that she had to fight really hard against Stunning Sky in the stretch, and I believe those 2 horses were both on our tickets. So it was good to see it cross. You don't love, again, the 5-2 odds that you get on Morning Molly or the 2-1 on Stunning Sky, but I'm with you. We correctly identified who we thought was a vulnerable favorite on the morning line, which was Catch a Bid. So I'm with you. I think that this was the right move. It just sucks that, like what happened to Santa Anita all weekend, you're not getting good payouts, but what we can, at least for me, what I can take moving forward is that I was handicapping things correctly. I thought I pretty much picked the spots where you had a vulnerable favorite here, a vulnerable favorite there. It didn't pay off so much for me against Spooky Channel, but I felt confident in the swings that I took, and the reason that I didn't have Spooky Channel work out for that, well, I put a little bit too much thought into the pace and probably shouldn't have. So that's something, again, when you get to these higher levels, maybe I factor too much into pace versus if we were doing, state-bred New York New York-bred claimers, the end of the Aqueduct card. All right, that's when you start looking at the pace scenario and really trying to factor in what's happening. So that's personally for me how I took it all.
Yeah, I mean, additionally, and I mentioned this with the first turf race, speed was terrible on the turf course on Saturday night or on Sunday night, and that's something that you don't necessarily expect. Generally, when you have what I'm going to call a quote-unquote smaller track, you expect speed to do well at those type of places. And in this case, you saw it in the turf sprint where speed kind of fell apart, and you saw Karatari and you saw Fast Boat come from off the pace. And then you saw it in all of these stakes races where horses were making moves off the pace, and that was really how they were winning these races. And that means that horses, horses like Spooky Channel are going to have a better chance of being able to run on it and get the job done. And we saw that in every single one of these races where, even Catch a Bid here is first, ends up in fourth. The 6th horse, Karawa, whatever, ends up in second to last. I mean, the speed just didn't hold in any of these turf races. And that's something that's unique, especially when you're looking at these circuits. You expect speed to hold, and that was just not the case on Sunday.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks for joining Mike and I live on Monday afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are, to talk about the racing action that we saw over the weekend and the lessons we can take moving forward. Over at racedudes.com, already got some previews and some analysis of what's coming up this weekend, which includes the Withers Stakes at Aqueduct. That is a Kentucky Derby prep. Tampa Bay Downs hosting the Sam F. Davis Stakes Saturday as well. And then right here, I know I'm a little biased, but Moonlight Doro, one of the My Racehorse horses that I have a piece of, is going to the Las Virgenes Stakes on Saturday. She's looking very strong. So racedudes.com, we got you covered. By the way, Mike, I don't know if you noticed this, but the Racing Dudes 3 Stars of the Week photo, I made Express Train the #1 star, which I thought Jared, a little bit, I guess it was a little bit of a controversial pick because Jared, in the email blast that he put out, was saying, surprise pick, surprise pick. He got 100 buyer. I didn't think it was that big of a surprise. But look who got to sneak in on the photo here for the 3 stars. Let's just say I had plenty of close-ups of Express Train, and one with Tiz the Magician in the shot is what made it on the website.
You're not biased at all.
Not in the least bit, no. But we'll have plenty of previews for you for the Sam F. Davis, for the Withers Stakes, the Las Virgenes Stakes, and more. Everything is coming up this weekend. It's going to be an exciting one. Like I mentioned, the 26 pick 6 payout is a mandatory at Anita on Saturday. They're expecting a $5 million pool, so I do not expect that to be taken out on Friday with an 8-race card, so look out on Saturday. That's going to be a lot of fun. Mike, what are you looking forward to this week?
Well, I'm having fun. I got Jared and Aaron still hooked on these tournaments. So Jared qualified for a $100 qualifier on Saturday. So he'll be in the NHC $100 qualifier on Saturday. I'm trying to get a seat. I'm sure Aaron will try and get a seat. So if you want to jump in on horse players and compete with us to try and get a seat at NHC, I think we'll hopefully all 3 of us will be in there. We'll see. But right now Jared's in there for sure. It's funny. I'm getting just blowing up the text chain about these tournaments. So it's a lot of fun to see them get into it. And then it's always fun to have a mandatory at Santa Anita. Hopefully have good weather. We're able to get some quality fields on Saturday and Sunday. It was nice to get a pick 5 home at Gulfstream on Sunday. It was it's felt good. So I'm excited to get the weekend racing back and get back to handicapping.
I talked to Jared earlier today, gave him a call, and I said, the first thing that he says, man, you're a degenerate when you're mad at yourself for not playing Turfway Park on Monday. And I was like, what? And then he told me about the whole tournament thing, and he's like, man, I was so close. And then he immediately jumped into it. The conversation that we had right before we went live Thursday about Jared just doing the hills and valleys already in his first day of the tournament. He's like, and then he said, well, yeah, it gets me into this $100 tournament. He said, I should have just bought my way in. He said, I'm invested $95 in tournaments trying to qualify for it. I should have just bought my. I said, well, you got $5 to spare. You get yourself a beer. And
you have the experience. Like, that's the thing. You save $5 to qualify for the tournament, but you also played 4 tournaments. So you're able to understand, okay, what worked, what didn't work. And one of the toughest things when you're playing tournaments is learning to not play short prices. And you have to be creative. If you're not creative, one creative horse, and like some people case, one stab horse, one dart horse, whatever you want to call it, will knock you completely out of the tournament. So if you're playing a 3 to 5 and any other horse wins, you're probably in trouble because someone else has that other horse and you lost one of your opportunity. Like, your opportunity cost of that race is gone. So it's interesting going through that process and learning it. It took me a while to kind of learn, okay, if there's a 3 to 5 shot, play someone else, because the 3 to 5 shot doesn't hurt you. Every other horse does. And that's something that you kind of have to get through the process of learning. So it's one of those things where, you save $5, but you gain 5 tournaments of experience where you can learn from what you did and what you saw during those tournaments.
I would love if all 3 of you guys do qualify for the NHC, because that'll just make NHC 2022 that much more special. It'll be you, the 2 of them. I'll be there as everybody's wingman. Dr. Tang will be there. Nick Sievers will be there. Brady will be there. We're going to need 2 tables for the Magic Mike team at this point. It's going to be awesome. Dr. Tang, speaking of which,
February 13th, first chance, last chance. You can still qualify for 2021. February 13th is your last shot. So that's out there if anyone wants to get in and be in Vegas in August for Travers weekend. Come on, what could be better?
If you can't be at Saratoga for Travers weekend, go to Vegas, second best place. I saw this. Dr. Tang posting that the first qualifier for the NHC was a first-time player and he beat 443 people. Well, that goes to show you that if it doesn't take a lot of experience to necessarily do this. Mike was successful right off the bat because he had the right theory in place. I'm guessing this person either threw a bunch of darts at the dartboard and got lucky, or had a pretty good theory ready to go when they employed it. Do you have any insight on who this winner was?
I don't. It was one of the lowest scoring NHC. I commented on it. It was one of the lowest scoring NHC tournaments that they've had in the last year. Not because no one hit anything. It was just one of the chalkiest ones that ever returned. The highest max score for a 12-race tournament was $121, I think it was. And the winner was just sub 80. So 66% of the highest possible score is what it took to win, which is pretty darn good. Like, play a racetrack for one day and try and get 66% of all the win place money. It's not easy. And so he was just able to string winner after winner. I think he had 5 winners or 6 winners of the 12 races, and he had a place that paid more than the win place for the winner. So, like, wonderful job to get it done, and it had a lot of winners. You know, I was in that tournament. I had, I think, 1 winner, and that was the first race, and then it went south from there. So I was playing a little longer shots than he was. We'll just put it that way.
I forgot. Coming up tomorrow, we have a new writer at racingnews.com. First article coming out. And Mr. Samich, I apologize in advance. It's another person named Mike. So we now have 3 Mikes that work for the team. But in his defense, he is Aaron Halterman's father. So Aaron Halterman's dad making his debut on racingnews.com with an article that is the 10 things that he misses most about Oaklawn Park. If you know Aaron, or if you even know of Aaron, you know that Aaron loves Oaklawn. Well, that comes from a place going there with his father, and I read this article. It took me, I think, 10 seconds to breeze over it, and I texted Aaron. I was like, this article is going to do so well on the site. This thing is hilarious. It had me cracking up. So it's a nice little tongue-in-cheek. We all are missing being at the track, or almost all of us. Some of you have been lucky enough to go. So it's just his 10 things that he misses about being there in person on the rail at Oaklawn Park. So check that out at racingnews.com. That'll be up on Tuesday morning as well. And if nothing else, give you a nice little laugh with your morning coffee.
I love it. Looking forward to read it. Need to get him a nickname. No more Mikes. Get rid of it. Like,
I know. Well, that's the thing.
Like, whatever it is, I don't care.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking that because you don't really go by Mike. Slim doesn't go by Mike's, at least not within our group. So yeah, it's weird to have an actual one named Mike. We'll see if Aaron. Aaron says think of one. Great. All right, we'll sit on that one.
We are the creative ones in the team, so we'll figure it out.
He's very excited. He should be. You should all be excited to go read that. So make sure you check it out. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Curtis Kellard. He is at SummerBomb18, number 1, number 8, Corporate Overlords at Racing_Dudes. We'll be back on Thursday with a Pick 4 previews. Mike, do you want to go back to Gulfstream? Do you have any preference?
People probably want Santa Anita since we have
because
the mandatory on Saturday. So maybe we'll go to your home world there and head over to California and Los Angeles and play a little Santa Anita Park.
I dig it. We'll help you try and cash in on that 20-cent mandatory Pick 6 payout with a $5 million pool at Sandy on Saturday. Until next time, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Good luck this week.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.